Good evening, everybody. This is CJ with the GOAT Sports Talk. Of course, continuing on the discussion of the NBA teams for the upcoming 2017-18 season. As we do know that, we're getting ready to kick it off tomorrow, and just, of course, kind of going on through, the different divisions and just kind of going through the teams. Of course, right now we're going through the Southeast Division, starting with the Atlanta Hawks. And as we know, there was a lot of moves made by Atlanta. They've really got a lot of their core pieces as far as their talent, except for a few, younger players. For example, of course we know that Teague is all the way over now in Minneapolis playing for the Timberwolves. And then, of course, you have Dwight Howard, who is now with the Charlotte Hornets. And Millsap has pretty much left and as well. And, so, at the end of the day, they've pretty much lost a lot of their better players, their veteran players, or their players that were really kind of like this, the steady parts of their team. Now, they still do got, Kent Bazemore, who's a heavy rotation player. They got Marco Bellinelli now, as to probably go into that starting lineup. But for the most part, of course, don't really got much to work with. Of course, everybody knows, if you are an Atlanta fan, Dennis Schroeder is pretty much, Rondo with a better jump shot. Very good player. But as far as what they're working with this season, they don't really got much. Ersan Ilyasova, I've always liked him as a sleeper fantasy pick back in the day when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks. He was just like one of the guys that was just played outstanding for me. But I don't know what he's going to do this season. And frankly, who knows what Atlanta is going to do this season. They have so many question marks. And for a city that a lot of people like to go to and live in, it's amazing that they have a hard time attracting free agents. And it could be in part because of their owner. Their ownership was known to have some discriminatory biases as well. Of course, we know about the whole Luol Deng situation, but I don't know really what it is with the Atlanta Hawks. I guess because they don't have a storied history. And I think also another thing, they've just never really been able to draft well. They've always signed like free agents that would come there and get a big check, like Joe Johnson. But no one would really ever, they would never develop players into like a true all-star caliber level. It's been a long time since they've done that. When you think about it, I can't even remember really the last time they really truly developed their own talent, like from start to finish. I know they had Josh Smith back in the day. Back during the time of, probably about 15 years ago or so, 13 years ago. And he was a steady player for them. But it's like, he never materialized into a franchise player. So they get these like lottery picks, but they never pan out to actually true franchise players. And they just seem to be stuck at mediocrity at times. Now, for 2 years or 3 years ago, of course, we know that they had, 60-something wins. I believe they had like 60 or 62 wins that season. They were a very good team, but of course they didn't have a upper echelon player that could put you over the hump like a LeBron James. So they have had actually, formed some teams that were fairly good. It's just if you're an Atlanta Hawks fan, again, as I said before about some of these Eastern Conference teams, the reason why a lot of these teams break up is because of LeBron. They defeated them. They decided that, while this guy is still playing ball, we cannot compete. Let's just get rid of some of these players and just wait it out until this guy pretty much retires. And that's what you just see the trail of teams that have played against LeBron James, be it when he was in Miami, be it when he was in Cleveland now. They just go into a dismantling mode after he beats them. They just start folding. Right now, we'll see what happens because Boston, may decide to just make moves and stuff like that if they lose this year later on in the playoffs if they meet up. So this is the type of stuff that happens when you're playing against the beast of the East and LeBron James and any team that he's on. So moving on. Charlotte. Charlotte has Dwight Howard. I guess I don't know what people will consider that as a big move. I don't even know if they really even truly needed him on their team. But, they made the move. Who the owner is, Michael Jordan. And, when I look at this team, I look at a team that has some, athletic wings, but they're, overall, it's just like they don't have anybody that can really put you over the top. Now, they do have Kemba Walker, who I would say is an all-star caliber player. He's a very good point guard. He's a guy that can, hit big shots. He's actually their closer on their team, and he's their leader. So, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. But as far as like another, big dog to pair him up with, when I go down this list, unfortunately, I don't see anybody else that can fit the bill. And that's going to be a problem. Barring injuries, crazy injuries, they will be a playoff team. Will be interesting to see, how Dwight Howard goes and grows with this team. Because the thing about it, everywhere Dwight Howard's been, all his teammates just don't like him. So it's just very weird like that. Except for maybe the time when he was in Orlando, back at that time, maybe because winning cures all ills, and they were winning and they were going to the finals and they were playing very big competitive basketball, and he was a dominant MVP candidate player, multiple time defensive player of the year. They dealt with him, but when things are not going well, he's always, for some reason, people point to blame for things that are going wrong with the team. He's always like the odd man out. So we'll see how this goes this coming up season. And, it'll be interesting to see, the narrative between, the team and how they're doing as the season progresses. Now, going on to Miami. Miami actually has, believe it or not, one of the highest payrolls in the league. And that is not going to do anything for them as far as, being competitive in the East. Again, I don't even see them as being a top 5 team in the East. They'll probably be a top 6 team, 7 or 8. They're definitely not that bad. They actually have some decent players. I think that Hassan Whiteside, of course, is a all-star caliber big man. But then when you look at like other teams, as far as what they got to pair alongside some of their players, this guy is just that's all he really has. I mean, Udonis Haslam is pretty much past his prime. He's just there more of almost like a front officeman who's basically, still on a roster. Of course, he took some major discounts. He is a hometown product. He is from Miami. And I think that's part of the reason why he's still on the team. They're paying him a little bit of money. And he did take some discounts in order to, build up the team that ended up winning, back-to-back titles when LeBron got there. So I think that's part of what they're doing. They're giving him pretty much legacy money at this point, but he's still good for veteran leadership in the locker room. Goran Dragic, he's pretty much getting to the point where he's going to probably be, he's already dipping down slowly away from what his peak was as a player. He's still good, but he's not going to be able to go up in a 7-game series against the likes of Isaiah Thomas or even, of course, a Kyrie Irving. And that's going to be, part of the issue. Same thing with Deion Waiters. He's good, but again, he's not on that level. And, he's better fit, probably maybe, playing alongside of a dominant point guard and, playing off of him more, or coming off the bench as a 6-man, in my opinion. But I don't think he's a bad player at all. And I'm actually glad that he showed improvement from how he played earlier starting his career, especially when he was at Oklahoma City. I was just like, man, what's going on? But, he came to Miami. He's playing better. A lot of players don't really work on other facets of their game. They're scorers, but they can't rebound. They don't distribute well. They don't really play defense, but they can score a little bit here and there. And that's pretty much, what he is as of right now as a player. But that's okay, because I think that what he brings to the table is valuable. And I think, it'll be good to see how he plays this season. He did sign a contract with them to basically stick with them. And, and that's a good thing for him. He got some security with that. Tyler Johnson, as you know, signed a big contract. I believe at the beginning of last season or 2 seasons ago. I can't remember. Everything's flying by so fast. And it was like out of nowhere because no one knew who he was. So he's a decent player. We know that Kelly Olynyk left Boston, came to Miami, signed a big deal. That's part of the reason why a lot of his money is tied up. It's tied up really with, Hassan, Goran Dragic. You got Tyler Johnson on a big deal. Kelly Olynyk, Dion Waiters. So when you look at that, I'm telling you, go to Hoops Hype and look at the contracts that they have on some of these players. They're going to have a hard time being able to attract big marquee free agents unless they can move those pieces. Now some of these contracts are relatively friendly, so they might be able to move some of these guys if they wanted to free up space to sign a major free agent to pair alongside of Hassan Whiteside. So we'll have to wait and see. Now you do have the rookie Bam Adebayo, so it'll be interesting to see. He was a big time player in high school. It'll be interesting to see how they use him on that team. Going further on, going to Orlando Magic. They haven't been the same since Dwight Howard left. As much as people talk down on Dwight Howard, guess what? They have not done anything since he's left. And that was a long time ago. All right? Now, Aaron Aflalo, one of the most underrated players in the league. Gives you D, gives you straight, dogged determination, not scared for the big moments. And he can, he could score. He's a two-way player. He's an underrated two-way player in this league. DJ Augustine, another one. He's underrated. I like him as a steady point guard. If you have a point guard that goes down, for example, if he was like on the Rockets and somehow Chris Paul was going to be out for 5 to 7 games, DJ Augustine can hold down that position pretty well. He's very competitive. He's from New Orleans originally. He came to the Houston area during Hurricane Katrina. And he went to high school in Houston at that time, not too far from where I had grown up. And he is a very steady player. I like him on the roster. You need those type of point guards that are veterans. They don't turn the ball over. They play good basketball. A young team needs a guy that can slow down the pace, that can control things when you have a young team. Evan Fournier, very good player. I think he was over there in Denver, and he's underrated. I like his talent, but again, what are teams looking for? You need alpha players. You need players that can be all-stars. Now, these are all good players. I think the biggest thing you got to watch out for is what leap is Aaron Gordon going to take this season? Can he get to the level? I mean, everybody compares him, of course, because of how he looks and his hops to Blake Griffin. But can he get to a level where he may be considered an all-star this year? I mean, all-star positions this season in the East are up for grabs. If you're a young, talented player in the Eastern Conference, you should be, and you're starting, you're getting minutes, you're getting 35 minutes a game plus. You should be trying to put up numbers this season and play consistently to get yourself to the all-star game. So that's the kind of leap he needs to take if you are an Orlando Magic fan in order for you to have a good season to see his development. Mario Hezonja, I don't know what happened with him. He was drafted pretty early. He was a lottery pick, and people thought he was going to be a good player. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if he's just not able to mesh with the team, the coaches. I don't know if it's maybe coming from Europe and coming to the U.S. He's still trying to, pick up on culture or English or language. I don't know what it is, but he was supposed to be a guy that was supposed to have a lot of promise, and he has not lived up to that expectation. So for the most part, I'm not going to go through every one of these players. Everybody knows about, Vucci Main, Nikola. Come on, man. Everybody, this guy right here is one of the most underrated players in the league, period. I mean, this guy, you look up the stat score, and you're like, somebody grabbed 20 boards today. Like when they do the rebounding leaders, and he's one of those guys that you'll see pop up every once in a while. Of course, we know that Jonathan Simmons, after, basically not being on the NBA team, being picked up by San Antonio Spurs, he got the bag, got a long-term deal with them. So that's going to be interesting to see, what he does next. So now on to the Washington Wizards. Of course, I believe that they'll be either number 2 or 3 in the East, of course, barring an injury, injuries to, LeBron James or whatever, for the duration of the season. Very good team. I like them. I like this team. I think that, the one thing about this team that I really like is I really believe that they know that they're underdogs. They know that they're underlooked. And I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I mean, some of the guys they have, you just see the way that they play. Yeah, they truly believe in themselves, and I think they want to shock, the people out there that are saying Boston and, Cleveland are the teams to beat. I like Bradley Beal's game. He reminds me a lot of Ray Allen. I don't know if he'll be that great of a shooter, but he's one of the best shooters in the league. I mean, the way he plays the game, he's like a true, pure, two guard that basically can catch and shoot really well. He can finish a little bit, and he's very aggressive. I mean, I like the way, I think that backcourt with him and John Wall is perfect. I just think that they should just stick together, and they should try and lure another free agent. I know at one point they were hoping to probably get Kevin Durant, and that would have been a game changer to have 3 all-star caliber players on the same team with other, very good and decent, role players. Now, when you go, one of my favorite players that I like to watch is, is John Wall. John Wall is just a two-way monster. I mean, he's an improving jump shot. He's long, he's athletic, he has a high b-ball IQ. He had injury issues early on in his career. He's overcome those. And, he's basically one of the more fun players to watch in this league. Probably the fastest player with the ball, in the open court. I mean, he just blazes through there. He can finish with either hand. Amazing player. Marcin Gortat is a very, very steady player. I like him at the center position for them. When I look at this team, I just think that when I look at it, I say, you know what? This team is very good, with the players that they got. It's like if they could just get one free agent this coming up summer that says, you know what, I'm going to play there, and I'm going to basically, put my stamp on this team. It'll be amazing, but it's going to be very hard because, for one, they do have a lot of money tied up to their players. Otto Porter got a lot of money. A lot of people forget. I'm not going to go over the contract now, but go to hoopshype.com. You know what to do. Look it up. So, money-wise, unless the salary cap keeps moving up, it's going to be hard for them to really have that flexibility to get certain players because it's going to be hard to probably even move his contract. Even though he's a very good player, he had an amazing season. When you look at the season he had, it made teams consider, like, look, this guy might be a good player for us to pick up. So, we'll see what happens with them, and I think I like them. I would say this, if you're a Washington Wizards fan, if this team makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals, that is a dang good season for you. And at that point, you hope that LeBron James goes out west, maybe to like Houston or the Clippers. He's definitely not going to the Lakers. That we'll discuss that another time. Or he goes to maybe San Antonio or something. And at that point, if that happens, I believe this team could end up potentially being in the NBA Finals at some point in the near future, if that happens. All right, so that's pretty much it, man. Wrapping up with the Southeast Division. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.